When a people are taught to forget their past, someone else gets to decide their future. Memory is a form of resistance. There comes a moment when knowing the truth isn't enough. That's when a people must decide, will they act or remain controlled?
Situation you're interested in? Yes, Tasha K signed a partnership deal with Oceanic Tradewinds. The announcement mentions it's a lucrative multi-stack syndication deal to expand her brand globally. There are reports of her platforms generating up to 200 million monthly views, and the company plans to syndicate her content nationally and globally. Would you like to know more about the partnership or her other legal battles? After Tasha K filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, the court allowed her to keep operating her business while creating a repayment plan. That plan requires her to make monthly payments to Cardi B, which are scheduled to start around $176,000 per year and increase over time. The bankruptcy filing also notified other creditors, including the IRS and state tax authorities. While the plan addresses the defamation judgment, recent court filings have found her in contempt for violating non-disparagement terms, leading to new fines and a request from Cardi B's team to reinstate the full $4 million judgment. Does that provide the clarification you needed? Besides Cardi B, both Kevin Hart and Soulja Boy have filed lawsuits against Tasha K. Kevin Hart accused her of extortion, claiming she demanded money to not publish a damaging interview. Soulja Boy is suing her for defamation over comments made on her podcast about himself and another reality star. To revisit Cardi B's situation, she sued Tasha K for defamation after Tasha K ran a malicious campaign, falsely claiming Cardi B had herpes, was a prostitute, and did hard drugs. Tasha K initially refused to remove the defamatory videos because she felt she had a First Amendment right to say what she wanted. Although a plan was set up to repay her debt, Cardi B is now seeking to collect the full $4 million judgment, claiming Tasha K violated a non-disparagement clause. Were you hoping to learn more about the specific terms of the non-disparagement clause? The non-disparagement clause bars Tasha K from making any derogatory or defamatory remarks about Cardi B, her family, and associates, including her husband Offset and NFL player Stephon Diggs, across all platforms. The court found Tasha K in contempt for violating that agreement based on her commentary about Offset, including remarks about his alleged gambling debts and a recent shooting. Are you curious about what fines or penalties were ordered as a result? Yes, as a result of the contempt ruling, Tasha K agreed to pay Cardi B $60,000. That amount covers some of Cardi B's legal fees incurred from enforcing the non-disparagement clause. Her lawyer also faced sanctions for submitting false case citations in the filings. While those payments resolve the immediate contempt issue, Cardi B's team is still pursuing the full $4 million defamation judgment. Would you like to know more about what happens if she doesn't comply with their... If Tasha K fails to comply with the bankruptcy plan or makes more disparaging comments, the court could potentially throw out the payment plan agreement. This would reopen the door for Cardi B's team to aggressively pursue collection of the full nearly $4 million judgment. She could start garnishing her wages, seizing property, or freezing bank accounts. Would you like to know more about a specific aspect of collection against a bankruptcy debtor? Specific to Tasha K, Cardi B's legal team could move to garnish her business income, largely from her YouTube channel. They could also freeze her personal assets, including bank accounts, investments, vehicles, and physical property like jewelry or collectibles. There are also reports of her husband being accused of hiding assets, which may prompt Cardi B's team to seek further discovery or challenge any trusts. Would you like to understand more about the court's power to freeze those assets? Yes, courts have the power to issue freezing orders, also known as asset preservation orders. These are exceptional measures designed to prevent someone from moving or hiding assets to avoid paying a judgment. If Cardi B's team demonstrates a real danger that Tasha K might dissipate her assets, the court could freeze bank accounts, business income, and personal property. Breach of such an order could lead to contempt proceedings and further penalties. Would you like to know more about how those assets would be located? To find assets, Cardi B's team can use a process called post-judgment discovery. This includes court-ordered questioning where Tasha K must disclose her financial information under oath, requests for documents like bank statements, and subpoenas to third parties like banks or credit unions to uncover accounts. They might also examine public records for property or business interests and even monitor her digital footprint for signs of undisclosed wealth. Does that make sense, or would you like more details on any one of those? Certainly. With post-judgment discovery, Cardi B's team can compel Tasha K to provide financial records like bank statements and tax returns under oath or force her to answer questions at a deposition. They can also issue third-party subpoenas to banks, employers, or business partners. Would you like to know more about how public record searches or digital footprints are used? Certainly. Public record searches can uncover things like real estate ownership, business registrations, and any vehicles, boats, or aircraft registered in her name. They can also reveal previous judgments, liens, or bankruptcy filings. Regarding digital footprints, investigators might examine social media posts to see if luxury purchases or travel are mentioned, track cryptocurrency transactions, and analyze activity on digital marketplaces or e-commerce accounts to identify assets or income streams inconsistent with court filings. Would you like to know more about how these methods work? Public record searches review things like property deeds and vehicle registrations held at county or state law offices, which can reveal assets like real estate or cars. This also includes checking court filings for bankruptcies, liens, and judgments. On the digital side, investigators look at social media posts, potentially revealing luxury purchases or travel plans that might contradict financial claims, tracking cryptocurrency transactions through public blockchain ledgers, and analyzing e-commerce or digital marketplace activity. Are you wanting to know more about how forensic accountants might tie all this together? Forensic accountants use a mix of investigative skills and financial analysis to find hidden assets. They might compare her lifestyle expenses with publicly available information, like real estate transactions or vehicle purchases, to see if they match her reported income. Then they meticulously review bank records and tax returns, tracing the movement of funds between different accounts or digital platforms like Zelle or Cash App to uncover hidden accounts or suspicious transfers. Are you thinking about a specific type of financial transaction, or would you like more details on how they track digital footprints? Isn't entirely safe because of their different platforms and reputations. While both are known for raw commentary, Wendy Williams had a nationally syndicated television show and built close relationships with celebrities. Tasha K primarily works on digital platforms and has faced more legal trouble for her reporting style. However, some people compare their unfiltered star power and connection with their fan bases. Would you like to hear about the different ways they interact with celebrities? Wendy Williams forced celebrities to address tough questions directly, and they couldn't really avoid her. Even when she bashed them, her primetime show made her a gatekeeper in Hollywood, and she had more of a traditional journalistic style, although sensationalized. Tasha K, on the other hand, operates on social media and is known for spreading rumors or interviews with people connected to stars, which frequently leads to legal trouble. Instead of celebrities needing her, she often clashes with them, leading to lawsuits and feuds. Did you want to know more about a specific clash she had with a celebrity? Her deal with Oceanic Tradewinds is described as a broad partnership to expand her brand across multiple platforms, including digital channels, podcasts, and streaming television. It's designed to boost advertising, sales, and syndication, with Oceanic planning to distribute her content nationally and globally. In terms of her morning radio appearances, like on The Morning Hustle, she breaks down celebrity news and gives her unfiltered take on entertainment. However, no specific mention was found of her commentary about foundational Black Americans in that context, though she has addressed them on other platforms. Are you hoping to track her statements specifically about them? You can best keep track on her official YouTube channel, Unwind with Tasha K, and her website, TashaKLive.com. She also appears on the Morning Hustle radio show, weekdays from 6 to 10 a.m., and mentions her legal battles and opinions there as well. You might want to set notifications on her social media pages, like Facebook or Instagram, to stay updated on her shows and tour dates. Would that work for you? The show you're asking about is actually called The Morning Hustle, and it's nationally syndicated, broadcast across many markets in the U.S. It's created and produced by Urban One Radio and hosted by L'Oreal and Kyle Santillan, with Alton Walker contributing comedy. They offer an informative and humorous take on urban pop culture, entertainment news, and gossip from millennials and Gen Z listeners. While I don't have a specific list of current sponsors, advertisers often work with their parent company, Urban One, for media and programming opportunities. In New York, you can listen to similar shows on Power 105.1, but while The Morning Hustle is nationally syndicated, you need to check their official website or local listings to find a specific affiliate in your area. Does that help clarify what the show's about? Based on publicly available information about their backgrounds, here's how the individuals you mentioned are identified. Born in Brooklyn, New York to Puerto Rican parents, described as African American in some sources, and has publicly spoken about living in Africa and having an African husband. Identifies as Vietnamese Filipino American from Carson, California. On his background from the provided sources is focused on his comedy and career, with his race not publicly determined at this time. The lineage of none of these individuals has been definitively determined to be a U.S. descendant of chattel enslaved people based on these reports, as you requested. My apologies for any confusion. Based on the public reports we have, L'Oreal is described as being Puerto Rican and Brazilian. One profile lists her ethnicity as Asian and Puerto Rican. For clarification, at no point did the sources mention that she became African American, as that was not part of the information present. Tasha K is described as African American and has publicly spoken about living in Africa and having an African husband. Kyle Santillan is identified as Vietnamese Filipino American. Based on the search results at this time, there is no specific mention of Tasha K publicly stating she has Bahamian ties, or that a parent or grandparent is from the Caribbean. While she has mentioned living in Africa and having an African husband, the information provided focuses on her American upbringing and Southern lineage. Are you referencing something specific she may have said? While those reports might suggest that she mentioned a Caribbean background, the search results from this time do not contain a specific public statement from her claiming she is 1/4 Caribbean. The information focuses on her Southern upbringing, her African American lineage, and her current life in Africa. Were you hoping to clarify a particular quote you might have seen? Historical reports show that systemic violence and discriminatory policies were extensively enacted by white citizens and governments against Black Americans, not the other way around. Black people did not lead lynchings or write policies that excluded people from housing, education, or business loans. Instead, their focus has been on social justice and creating organizations like the NAACP to fight those injustices. So, based on the history of mass racial violence and the creation of segregationist laws, no, there is no record of foundational Black Americans conducting those specific actions. Does that make sense, or would you like more details on any particular aspect? That's correct. Comparing foundational Black Americans to the KKK or any white supremacist group is erroneously false. The Klan was an organization dedicated to violence and systematic oppression to restore white supremacy, while Black Americans fought for civil rights and equal protection under the law. So there is no historical basis for that kind of comparison. Is there anything else you'd like to clarify? Regarding the Jamaican Shower Posse, they were a prominent posse that expanded rapidly across the U.S. during the crack cocaine epidemic, known for intense violence. They were partly disbanded after widespread federal crackdowns and the 2010 arrest of leader Christopher Dudas Koch in Jamaica, though smaller sects may still operate. The violence they committed focused on controlling drug markets and rival gangs, which did lead to conflicts with Black American organized crime groups and sometimes racially concentrated problems in some communities. The Zoe Pound, a Haitian gang, originated in Miami in 1992, initially to protect young Haitians, but shifted to drug trafficking. They are still considered active in Miami, New York, and reportedly have a presence in other parts of the country. Public reports also indicate the presence of transnational gangs like Tren de Aragua, which has ties to Venezuela and New York and Florida, but did not contain examples of gangs specifically described as African gangs in those areas. Are you hoping to learn more about a particular gang? Regarding your first point, the search results we have do not contain reports of an African individual or gang providing weapons to youth in New York between 2024 and 2026. However, concerning crimes committed by foreign nationals, there are reports on specific cases, like Chukwuebuka Nwobodo, a Nigerian man in Houston, Texas, charged with murder and tampering with evidence in 2022 in connection with the death of Felicia Johnson. He fled to avoid capture. Information from federal sources indicates Jamaican prisoners in the U.S. are commonly convicted of drug offenses, illegal weapons possession, or homicide. Deportations for Haitians often linked to illegal entry or criminal convictions, with many Black immigrants facing deportation based on misdemeanor charges. To clarify, the Zoe Pound gang, it was created to protect Haitians in Miami from harassment, not due to Black Americans per se. However, rivalries between posses and other gangs, sometimes Caribbean, did occur. There is no publicly available information provided about why. Did you want to look further into specific aspects of these criminal reports? Regarding the Jamaican Shower Posse, reports indicate they were involved in intense violence to control drug markets and rival gangs, including rival posses like the Fatherless Crew. This violence could sometimes spread into communities, such as a shootout in Queens, New York in 2010 that occurred after a baby shower. Reports also mention conflicts with Black American organized crime groups. The Haitian gang, Zoe Pound, has been involved in drug trafficking, extortion, and human smuggling, primarily in Florida. Concerning African crime, there are notable cases like Chukwuebuka Nwobodo, who was charged with murder and tampering with evidence in Texas. There are also reports of Nigerian nationals being convicted of crimes like marriage fraud to evade deportation, and larger fraud schemes like Nigerian-born men found guilty in multi-million-dollar fraud cases. Would you like more details on any specific type of offense? Reviewed the ex-roommate of reality star LaToya Ali. In that interview, the roommate alleged she had witnessed LaToya Ali stealing things and shared surveillance video. While that's unrelated to Tasha K's legal battles, it is an example of her covering content involving ex-roommates or other personal interpersonal conflicts. Were you wanting to know more about that specific gossip story? In 2026, the conditions for children in conflict zones in Africa continue to be very dire. Recent reports show a record number of grave violations against them, including recruitment into armed groups, killing, and sexual violence. Countries like the Democratic Republic of Congo, Nigeria, and Somalia currently have some of the highest levels of violations. Regarding FGM, while there has been some decline overall, progress is not uniform, and millions of girls are still at risk. Is there a specific aspect or region you'd like to understand further? Child marriage is still widespread in sub-Saharan Africa, with almost 1 in 3 women between 20 and 24 having been married before they turned 18. In some countries like Niger, Central African Republic, and Chad, that rate is over 60%. While there has been some progress, it hasn't been even, and population growth means more girls will be at risk in the future. Girls who marry young often drop out of school, face major health risks during pregnancy, and face higher risks of domestic violence. Would you like to know more about what countries are doing to try and stop it? The Caribbean Basin Security Initiative, or CBSI, is a U.S. foreign assistance program established in 2009 that brings Caribbean nations together with the United States to combat drug trafficking, advance public safety, and prevent crime. While I don't have information specifically about a $92 million demand, Congress recently appropriated not less than $88 million for fiscal year 2024, which was more than the administration requested. The funding prioritizes countries that are illicit drug transit zones and those most directly impacted by the crisis in Haiti. It's true that U.S. officials have reported a regular and sometimes daily occurrence of high-powered weapons being seized in South Florida intended for Haiti. In January 2026, for example, 2 Haitian nationals were charged for smuggling weapons to Haiti from Miami. Would you like more details about the specific programs the funding supports? While the search results do not provide lists of incentives specifically for foundational Black American communities, there are many broader programs and organizations that directly support Black communities. When discussing Black without any further qualifiers, the term broadly encompasses all people of African descent, including both U.S.-born individuals and immigrants. Many general community support initiatives focus on socioeconomic challenges. The Caribbean Basin Security Initiative, or CBSI, provides a range of benefits directly to its partner nations. These include improved capabilities to disrupt illicit trafficking, like drug trafficking and firearms, through training and equipment such as boats. It also supports legal reforms, strengthening prosecutors in the justice sector, and helps create programs for at-risk youth to prevent them from joining gangs or becoming victims of crime. The program aims to promote social justice and public safety throughout the region. Are you curious about the specific achievements and TANF to U.S. citizen programs and legal rights for refugees, asylum seekers, and some immigrant groups that are not available to general citizens? These include time-limited benefits, like, thank you for clarifying. When focusing on programs specific to refugees, asylum seekers, and some immigrant groups rather than general citizens, there are time-limited benefits like refugee cash assistance designed to help meet their basic needs, such as food and shelter. They may also receive English language training.
Okay, we have to have the correct information. So I wanted to go to the sources. She also has lawsuits from Kevin Hart and stuff like that. It just wasn't Cardi B. She has to pay the IRS and Cardi B first, out of money that she gets. So she may get some type of wealth, but it's not all hers. That's the way I took it. She did decide not to have a panel and push them out of prison. So I think that was big of her not to just keep going with it. But all in all, I still haven't found a receipt of the person that called her husband a booty scratcher. Maybe this was somebody out in the street, maybe. I don't know. But if y'all find it, send it to me so I could watch the interaction. And so I think people are having a hard time with Pan Africanism ending the way or changing, not being as readily accepted as it once was. We do know that I broke down a lot of the things that the Caribbean are doing to us in New York. I don't give a fuck about the Caribbean in New York, to be honest. Right? They have systemically harmed us here. I'm not a Pan African. I care about loss of life. I really do. So I don't want anybody harmed. But they have beautiful countries to go home to. It just needs infrastructure. Coming here, being construction men, educators, nurses, when I can pull up resources from those very countries, right? And they are crying about this, can't use that, there's this, that, and the third took over this spot and their islands and stuff. We're not saying, or I'm not saying, foundational Black Americans have never said that the Caribbean should be harmed or don't even deserve repair. But they have worn out their welcome. They have undermined us. And shout out to the Ados brother who came to a reparations hearing in New York and told us how the Caribbean, he told the commissions, and if you want to keep trying to put them on the reparations hearings, then we got to stop and go through what they got over us because this is how they locked us out of home ownership. And I've been on go ever since. So shout out to that brother. He identified as ADO. So foundational Black Americans and ADOs really don't get in each other's way when it counts, right? I sit around people that be like, BX, I'm ADOS, I'm indigenous, I'm foundational Black American, I'm all that. Because if you hit one of us, you hit us all. Now, babies are off limits, but it didn't seem like anybody talked about her children. And as a mother of bi-ethnics, you want America and Black Americans to do great because we are the strongest. But what we can't have is a bunch of Pan Africans, right? Especially in New York and in Miami, right? Chicago, we see what they're going through, but FBA stomping the yard in Chicago. Chicago flips red, right? California, we got Black Vanguard and stuff. Dr. Camilla Moore is about lineage based reparations. So shout out to her. She actually came to the New York reparation hearings to tell them they had it wrong. It had to be lineage. And she identifies as an African American. So I just want to say this. It doesn't matter how we identify as long as we are on code, not undermining each other. Tasha K's husband is a whole African. He's up for roasting. God damn it. Y'all be roasting me. Yeah, and I get it. I get it. It's frustrating. But in the grand scheme of things, yeah, fuck it. Fuck it. He got caught the booty scratching, no receipts was drawn. She went to dragging us, but realized she ain't really wanted to, take it there, and that's fine. But what's not fine is if we have any part of her story wrong, because that would be misinformation. We still want to be credible. We're gonna roast everybody. I'll get roasted. Do I like it? I roast back. Um, so yeah, that's all I wanted to address. Like, so we can, because it's hyperbole, we can't sue her, but we can issue cease and desist or type of mess. So she probably just realized she ain't want FBA smoke because the way we was coming. And then other people got involved. But yeah, shout out to the Edo's brother who told us about the undermining by the Caribbean in New York. So I don't give a fuck if they're a doctor, a construction worker, an educator. An educator is a person who indoctrinates our children any fucking way. Because Pan Africanism is what got us into some of this mess. If we being honest, in New York. Because they was blocking us out of a lot of things, but the Pan Africans ain't gonna tell you that. They didn't know no better. It was the white man. They purposely locked us out. They play a good, strong game of group economics, viewing us as competition, while we were raised to treat marginalized groups as we wanted to be treated. I checked the islands on who was identified as Black and who wasn't for the simple fact that Trinidad is, the East Indians outnumber them by a small margin. They're not called Black in Trinidad, so don't let a Trinidadian tell you they migrated here, they Black now. No, they're African. There are some islands that have Black, but not the racial caste as foundational Black Americans are subjugated under and have been subjugated under since 1790, the first census. I've been doing my research. Yes, I have. I do want to focus on Black August. I think that's it. I think Tasha K, that issue is laid to rest. She didn't have the panel speaking about us, and that is fine. It would have been her right to do it. She would have did it anyway. Um, People have compared her to Wendy Williams. She could never be Wendy Williams. Wendy Williams, some say she's receiving her karma. Wendy Williams does have Graves' disease. Sometimes it does cause mental illness such as anxiety, mental health issues. Maybe not mental illness, but health issues with hers. in natural remedies, anxiety. You could have that manageable. But look at this. We always say about our men, such as Bill Cosby and stuff, how their wealth was kind of dwindled or they were set up and stuff like that. That I think Prince and Michael Jackson really had money issues. I think the wills had to be Prince's will had to be declared because they couldn't find it, right? So his siblings got his estate, and what they did with it, I don't know. But we always say that they never allow us to take our wealth when we go. Black people, Black Americans to be specific. Either they're going to take our wealth or take our lives, right? When we reach a certain economic status, and it was a white woman who did the whole, how you call that shit? A conservation? God damn it, I'm forgetting the word. It's like a guardianship. And Britney Spears was under one. God, I forgot the word. So, but Wendy Williams, she did somebody posted a picture of her. She looks well. I wish the best for her. And I don't think she lied about Diddy, right? And he got her fired or something. I do want to know what's going on with Jaguar Wright. Because I just want to know. I am nosy like that. But I do have a show that's not really centered around Tasha K for this morning. I just kind of wanted to put that out there. Although the comparison is erroneous, we have not lynched nobody. We have not written people out of policy. We not have denied them basic religion. On the island of Jamaica, they can't practice an African traditional religion, meaning an ATR. They can't practice Obia over there, and they've been asking the government. They have a whole petition on Twitter. The petition got to be a year old. For them to practice their basic spirituality beliefs. We have never subjugated anybody in that manner on this land. We don't have no complaints about the expats in other lands. So people can't even practice their spirituality. We haven't denied them education. If anything, they've overrun our HBCUs, and now a Hindu Irish person whose father was just born on the island of Jamaica and descends from the Irish plantation owners is considered Black. Look at that. So yeah, Pan-Africanism is a harm to foundational Black Americans, our structure, our way of life, because they have us believe that Kamala was good for the lineage because she attended an HBCU and had a so-called Black experience. That's shit they got to stop. Caribbean. You know what got to stop? Them telling us they pay taxes. And that includes the Haitians. I don't hate the Latinos really saying that, but I'm around a lot of Puerto Ricans. Dominicans don't really talk about deportation. Puerto Ricans ain't being deported their territory, but it's them Africans in them Caribbean. I got degrees. I pay my taxes. I'm covered by the 14th Amendment. All that shit there really, really got to change. And when you want to talk about your degrees and stuff, but your homeland is failing, you're not educating your youth, your special needs children have to be uprooted from the comfortable environment that I'm pretty sure their parents tried hard to obtain and maintain for them, to go to another island or even come to either the UK or the United States for basic health care. Something is wrong with the people that left the island. Go back and take care of your youth and your elderly. But look at this, since we're on the topic of Jamaica for now, because we are going to get to the Black August segment. Fair use.
Jamaica's most deadly neighborhoods were built on purpose by the very politicians who were supposed to protect the people? In the 1960s and 70s, both the Jamaica Labour Party and the People's National Party were locked in a brutal fight for power, and they found a shortcut. They cleared land in Kingston, built housing projects, and filled them with loyal supporters. Then they handed those communities weapons. Places like Tivoli Gardens and Arnett Gardens became fortresses. Armed enforcers kept residents in line, delivered votes on election day, and punished anyone who stepped out of place. The gangs that grew out of those communities were not random. They were planted. Politicians called these men area dons. They funded them, protected them, and used them. And when the violence spread beyond anyone's control, those same politicians acted shocked. Jamaica's reputation for violence traveled the world. Bob Marley sang about it. Hollywood made movies about it. But the people who actually built the system, they retired quietly, with full pensions, and faced nothing. And literally sent ships to Jamaica and begged people to come help rebuild the country after World War II. They came. Thousands of them. Legal British subjects with every right to be there. They worked the buses, the hospitals, the railways. They built their whole lives in England. Then decades later, the government destroyed their landing records. Just gone. And suddenly, people who had lived in Britain for 50 years were being told they were illegal. Some were deported, sent back to a country they barely remembered. Britain invited them, then erased them. Did you know Britain literally... Annie Palmer arrived in Jamaica in the early 80s. Did you know a young white woman once ruled a Jamaican plantation so ruthlessly that people called her the White Witch of Rose Hall? Annie Palmer arrived in Jamaica in the early 1800s. She was small, beautiful, and barely in her 20s. But behind those eyes was something cold. She married John Palmer, the owner of Rose Hall Great House in St. James. He was dead within a year. Then she married again. That husband died too. Then a third. All gone under mysterious circumstances. Annie was said to have learned voodoo in Haiti as a child. Enslaved workers on the plantation feared her deeply. Stories spread of secret rituals, poisonings, and lovers who never made it out alive. She was eventually killed around 1831, reportedly by an enslaved man named Taku, seeking revenge for his granddaughter. Rose Hall still stands today near Montego Bay. Tourists walk its halls every night on ghost tours, searching for the woman who may never have truly left. Jamaica never forgot Annie Palmer.
So I got that information from a Jamaican page on Instagram. They had a lot of stuff. I showed the Annie Palmer thing because I went there to the plantation. And so if you ever decide to go to the islands, because we have Black American resorts on the island of Jamaica, just to get some sun, support Black Americans who have international businesses, be sure to go to what was it called? Whitehall. They even got a perfume named White Witch. Good morning, Ali. Named White Witch. But I wanted to talk about how you see how they had instituted those hazardous areas. And then they went and the leaders kind of quieted down. So it's not too far-fetched to believe that the Shah was possibly sanctioned by government leaders and that they would have complied with that to come over here and harm us. The Jamaican Shah posse is still in effect. Just smaller sets. I already told you that. We know about the Haitians. They say, oh, they needed to protect themselves. But they work hard. They're people who came here 16 years ago and built America. They shouldn't be sent home. That's the fuck they should. And remember when I told y'all, excuse me, that we watched the Haitians get their still an immigrant call with the Haitian TPS ending, but that the Jamaicans who had the Rising Day Parade and will have the West Indian Day Parade in September are not safe, even if they citizens. And I told y'all that there was the Mexican repatriation, which I call the Mexican expulsion, where even U.S. citizens, meaning Mexican Americans with two immigrant parents, were denaturalized and deported in 1929 through the 1930s. And I said, Trump is in office, and we keep telling y'all stop fucking with us. We told the Haitians stop fucking with us. We told the Africans stop fucking with us. We told the Caribbean stop fucking with us. Well, I found out that 5,000 Caribbeans are slated for denaturalization or have already received the notice to deport or notice to whatever that shit is to get ready to go. So we know the Haitians that their number's like 300 and something thousand or something. The resource is going to show it. But I keep telling y'all, and I keep telling y'all, this is what's going to happen. When I be up here, I be telling y'all. A lot of people, I just be like, I'm early. Or I just be feeling stuff and it be already in effect. But I got to say this again. If it's ancestral for us, it's ancestral for them. You coming to another man's land talking about you doing this, you doing that, you doing this, and you got more off your island than on. I think you're breeding a youth on them islands that will come here when they get a chance to and really, really dislike us. Y'all ain't these civilized stand-up people over there on the island. Y'all got more crime and police brutality than a little bit. That's why some of y'all come here and like machetes and shit. And all Black Americans are wondering if y'all have these homelands that's so beautiful that you wave these flags to, you have these people that you love, you're so proud of, why would you let somebody else take over where you dominate, where you're the majority? Do you know I was on Twitter and I was going to put it up, but man, fuck them niggas, right? So they were saying, and I know y'all got to believe this, because it's true. It's in my phone somewhere, but I had a lot of files, and I was just like, fuck it, I gotta go. Because I promised them I would go live before. And then I got frustrated and did some other stuff happened and all this other stuff. But I'm here now, right? Do you know Jamaicans are saying Jamaicans are Jamaicans, that's it. While there may be some relation, we ain't African to Americans. Talk about we different and Americans are just different. Now it's not a lot of them Jamaicans over there saying that, but we've been saying that they are allowed to say that all the time. But when we say we American, it's a big hurrah and we got to tussle on panels and all this other stuff. And a lot of times we're not even denying the transatlantic slave trade. But the fact of the matter is, whatever tribe that any of the small amount of ancestors who came here, the root is gone from Africa. They was isolated, ethnogenesis. Like people got to cut it out, but change is hard. But I found out 5,000 Caribbean, namely Jamaicans, will be denaturalized. We're gonna play that resource. I guess I'll skip the other videos and play that for you, so you know I'm serious in case you got to go to work. But we keep telling people, stop fucking with us. This is ancestral, baby. If y'all ain't know, and all them ATRs in New York that people are practicing still can't save themselves from a denaturalization order. Why? Because you fucking with the wrong ones. Y'all been undermining us for over 60 years in New York. So I don't give a fuck about a Pan-African from New York. You ain't saying shit. If your island look like shit. If you were sanctioned to come here to harm us. I don't give a fuck about them. If you ain't on code with foundational Black Americans, just wait your turn. ICE will be coming for you soon. At least 5,000 of you. Because the Dominicans are being deported too. And they ain't up here crying about being deported. Did you know that? I think the number said 12,000, but let me go to the resource so I can stop monologuing because I'm trying to stop cursing, y'all. Fair use.
TLDR summary. The Jamaica Gleaner reported on Trevor Anthony Grant, a 60-year-old U.S.-born citizen who was wrongfully deported to Jamaica by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, after nearly 2 years in detention. Background and arrest. Grant was detained by ICE at a gas station when officers were looking for a man named Devin Nickley. Despite Grant denying he was the individual, a verbal dispute led to his detention. Identity confusion. ICE officers insisted Grant was Devin Nickley, a Jamaican citizen previously deported from the U.S. in 1992. Evidence of U.S. citizenship. Grant produced FBI biometric fingerprint records directly identifying him as Trevor Anthony Grant, born in the United States holding sole U.S. citizenship. Deportation. Despite having no ties or family connections to Jamaica, ICE finalized travel documentation and flew him to the island. Current situation. Grant was left stranded in Jamaica without immediate support, leaving behind 7-year-old twin sons in the United States while seeking assistance to resolve his legal status and return home. TLDR summary. No, this did not happen today. Trevor Anthony Grant was deported on Thursday, February 27, 2025, and the Jamaica Gleaner first published his story a few days later on Sunday, March 2, 2025. Deportation date, February 27, 2025. Publication date, March 2, 2025 in the Sunday Gleaner. Length of detention prior to deportation, ICE held him for nearly 2 full years, from March 2, 2023 to February 27, 2025, before placing him on the flight to Kingston, Jamaica. TLDR summary. Yes, recent media coverage, including the Jamaica Gleaner, has highlighted cases of naturalized individuals targeted for denaturalization, stripping of U.S. citizenship, rather than simple immigration deportation. The distinction, Trevor Anthony Grant was a birthright U.S. citizen wrongfully deported due to mistaken identity. He could not be denaturalized because he never naturalized. Denaturalization crackdown. Naturalized citizens, foreign-born individuals who acquired U.S. citizenship later in life, can face federal civil lawsuits to revoke their citizenship if the government alleges fraud or concealed crimes committed prior to naturalizing. Jamaican citizens targeted. In June 2026, the Jamaica Gleaner and Jamaica Observer reported on U.S. Department of Justice, DOJ, actions seeking to strip U.S. citizenship from 17 naturalized individuals, including 2 Jamaican-born nationals, such as Roger George Gordon, convicted of wire fraud and conspiracy. Broader DOJ campaign. The Department of Justice has accelerated civil denaturalization actions against over 120 naturalized individuals nationwide, citing material misrepresentation, identity fraud, or past criminal activity during the naturalization window. Once naturalized citizenship is successfully revoked in federal court, the individual reverts to non-citizen status, typically lawful permanent resident or undocumented, and becomes subject to standard deportation proceedings. DR summary. According to U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, data and reports by Jamaican media, over 5,000 Jamaican nationals in the United States have been formally targeted for removal. The total targeted number, official ICE records on the non-detained docket show 5,120 Jamaican citizens who have received final removal orders from U.S. immigration judges. National Security and Execution Schedule. The Jamaican Ministry of National Security confirmed that U.S. authorities have set an initial schedule to execute removal orders for approximately 2,500 Jamaican nationals in staged deportation flights. Recent flight numbers. Standard removal flights arrive routinely in Kingston, typically on the last Thursday of each month, carrying between 50 to over 100 Jamaican deportees per charter. Regional ranking. Within the Caribbean region, Jamaica holds the 3rd largest population of individuals facing final removal orders from the U.S., trailing behind Haiti, over 32,000, and the Dominican Republic, over 12,000.
While U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement does not break down its nationwide total of 5,120 deportation-targeted Jamaican nationals strictly by individual states, New York hosts one of the highest concentrations. Community advocates and Caribbean diaspora analysts estimate that between 1,000 to 1,500 of the targeted Jamaican nationals reside within the ICE New York field office's jurisdiction, which covers New York City, Long Island, and upstate New York. The vast majority are based in New York City's major Jamaican heritage centers, primarily the Bronx and Brooklyn, as well as parts of Queens. Operations by ICE's Enforcement and Removal Operations New York field office routinely hit New York areas heavily populated by Caribbean nationals, making New York a primary hub for ICE enforcement actions relative to the national totals.
Right. So, but if you from New York, really, really from New York, you know, Jamaicans been getting deported forever, y'all. Ain't nothing new. But I never seen that large of a number to be targeted at. That's my anecdotal. It's really frustrating. I think they call them the bullies of the Caribbean, and for some reason they thought they could like literally turn around and try to bully us. They purposely locked us out of key industry in New York. Pan-Africans aren't talking about that. And I bet you they'll make an excuse about it. But I ain't making no more excuses about it. My ancestors, our ancestors, they are generational New Yorkers here. And I don't mean those whose family migrated from the South to New York. There are people who descend from those who were enslaved in New York. Like there was a whole northern enslavement system. U.S. chattel slavery, of course, with little differences, but yeah. No, I'm tired. Do you know what I do in my spare time when something happens in New York? I research if a Black well, you know, I say Black community was there from enslavement times, and 9 times out of 10, there was a Black town or settlement when something happens. And I gotta find Asian supermarkets buried on top of our ancestors, what used to be our ancestors' um resting places, right? We do know from the and this is something I found that wasn't even in the reparations hearings, but they had a woman come up and tell us the history of Staten Island and how there's a gas station. I don't really want to hear about a Caribbean having to be deported back home. It ain't their ancestors. They not being pushed out of areas. They not here in the States. They're melanated colonizers. I don't care about a Caribbean when I'm finding all types of things on top of my ancestors' bodies buried there, right? And you got this whole land where if your parents died, you would take their bodies back to your island. Instead, take your bodies back there because here's another thing that the Caribbean won't really talk about, right? The activism and the lack, the brain drain, and all this other stuff that they left behind. Look at this. Spare you.
Nurses generally, but I believe we produce enough to meet our demand if we could retain our nurses. That's the sense I get. So I'd love to hear your perspective.
In December of 2025, we would have registered 361 nurses. So you go to school for 4 years, you do your hospital examination, you are successful, but that doesn't make you a nurse yet. Mm-hmm. You must do the nursing council examination. Now the nursing council is our licensing body.
The profession.
Right.
The professional stage of the training.
Right. So they are then required to do the regional examination for nurse registration, commonly known as the RENR. That they have to pass that exam to practice as a registered nurse. So you can have a Bachelor's of Science degree in nursing, but you can't practice nursing. Because if the council does not permit you or register you, you can't work. We would have graduated 361 RNs last year. And
this is at the professional level?
Yeah. None of those persons are yet employed.
But that's strange.
And it's not strange. It happens every year.
It is said we have a shortage of nurses.
Right.
Well, let me not say nurses. Let me say there's a shortage of professionals in the system.
Yes.
But then you have people who are not engaged. So I'm curious, why is that?
The HR policies of the Ministry of Health and Wellness are a challenge for nursing.
The HR policies, what does that? Explain to me. I don't know enough about
the
intricacies of the profession. So
many moons ago when I was employed as a registered general nurse, when we were placed, you went to the ministry, you get your letter and you go down to the ministry and you're assigned. Because when we did the exam, we had to say where we want to work. You don't must get it, but you put it down there. Because I wanted to work in Port Antonio and I don't reach up there yet. But you were assigned and everybody who graduated was assigned. That no longer happens. Now, the current situation is that the HR management system is called the My HR Plus system. That system will not employ an individual if they are not able to align them to a post number. We don't have enough posts. That's the bottom line. There's a lot of semantics, but I'm just giving you a baseline. If you don't have a post number free, a person cannot be employed.
I've always been under the impression that we don't have enough healthcare professionals. We have
never had enough, sir, and that is a reality.
Yeah.
Time gone by, it would have been because we didn't train enough. Then we were training enough, but we're not paying enough, so people were leaving. And people are still leaving. Because I would have articulated in the local space that people don't leave for money only. People leave for opportunities.
Yeah.
And people leave for some basic things, sir. People leave. I have a child who is special needs. Jamaica can't help me. So I have to go to a country where I can work and send my child into a space that I know they are cared for and protected professionally. Jamaica doesn't offer that. So there are some things. I have my elderly parents who need additional health needs. They can't get that here, and that's the basic. there's an impression that compensation review would have made nurses stay. It hasn't made us stay. Those of us who don't have any ambition are still here, but it hasn't made us stay. Because, I have to say it like that because that is what some people tell us, that we don't have any ambition, that's why we stay here. But we stay still, because everybody can't leave. That's how it goes. Everybody can't leave. I have my people here, so I have to stay with them. But at the end of the day, compensation review did not allow everybody to stay. And as I say, the policies of HR are frustrated persons out of the job. So you are appointed as a level 1 registered general nurse. You go and you do a post-basic training in midwifery, psychiatry, accident and emergency, operating theater, whatever it is. There's no post to appoint you in. Or if there's a post, somebody is sitting in the post who did admin but can't move up because there's no sister post. And the challenges go on and on. Prior to this, we used to employ people temporarily. So they are employed on a temporary, well, it's called a temporary employment, but they are employed. And they would be paid as registered nurses. We don't have that system anymore. You must be aligned to a post. Some of the dynamics we really would want.
I've always been under the impression that we don't have enough healthcare professionals. We've recently
We have never had enough, sir. And that is a reality.
Yes.
Time gone by, it would have been because we didn't train enough. Then we were training enough, but we're not paying enough, so people were leaving. And people are still leaving. Because I would have articulated in the local space that people don't leave for money only. People leave for opportunities.
Yeah.
And people leave for some basic things, sir. People leave. I have a child who is special needs. Jamaica can't help me.
So I have an idea for the Caribbean. Should they accept the challenge? Nobody really wants the Haitians there, but what about the other Caribbeans? Because I got to tell you, there's a criminal element to everybody, right? It may not be large and all this other stuff. And you may not even want, how you call it? The criminal element coming to your island. Okay, granted, I give you that. But they got to get up out of here, right? People are deported for various reasons. If you don't want to accept the Haitians, I don't know, they got a homeland to go to. Why don't you take some of the other people that are willing to help become nurses and teachers and things over there? Because who's empowering the youth over there? Why does everybody think that there's no youth over there that needs empowering, that they should just leave here? The lady said she got a special needs son. That's just crazy to me. I don't think Black Americans really do that. We got expats, but hopefully they took their family with them. Oh, and people keep talking about how Tyreek trademarked FBA and we can't make money off of FBA. So, but, okay. American is trademarked and it's live. Black American, they let the patent, the trademark go. African American is live and it's registered for hats and shirts and shit. Black American, maybe that's a duplicate. But that's gone. They ain't revive it. The Caribbean is trademarked as well, and it's live and registered for promoting business, tourism, and travel. Okay, and that's by the companies in Barbados. Igbo is trademarked. Association services, namely promoting the interests of Igbo, is a nonprofit corporation in Washington, USA, of all places. So they do go by Igbo. Jamaica. Oh, Jamaica is trademarked. And that's a bath company. Okay. And it's live and registered. And one more that I have for you, but there's plenty of ethnic groups or nationalities that are trademarked. Tribe. Igbo's a tribe. Which will lead me to something else. African. accepting and administering monetary charitable contributions. And it's an individual in Algeria. Okay, but there's something else that made me even look into other trademarks, right? Well, I asked my nephew to go grab some for me. That was trademark. Let me see if I see um the video because I know I had it. Fair use.
You know how sick in the head you have to be to turn a whole cultural identity, a whole ethnicity, a whole tribe. You trademark the name Yoruba, something that belongs to African people, and you turned it into commercial property. Like I don't understand where this disrespect is coming from. First, it was Patrick Tal with the whole transitional blush nonsense and the thing he did with Painted by S, the thing he did to Painted by S, and now it's Shake and Go. A whole Asian hair company decided that they thought it was okay to disrespect Africans and trademark the name Yoruba. For what? Even I've never seen an African be bold enough to trademark the name Yoruba, but an Asian company decided that they were going to disregard and disrespect a whole tribe and trademark the name. From where to where? As how? For hair. You guys know Shake and Go, but when you used to walk into the beauty supply stores, their posters would be everywhere. They sell everything. So what concerns Shake and Go hair with Yoruba? What was the point of trademarking the name Yoruba? This is so on track with colonialism. I don't know what it is that's making you guys bold. All you guys do is steal, and it's making me sick to my stomach. I'm sick and tired of the blatant disrespect, because for you to literally commercialize, like you would trademark and then now commercialize Yoruba, something you have no association with whatsoever. Like, is it crack?
She said, is it crap? Okay. So I think that it's important to note that people will surprise you. They will. And every now and then they do stuff that's so egregious. It makes you just like speechless, right? I didn't know a lot of those things were trademarked. I didn't think that was a thing. I don't even understand why they did it, but I guess their branding, like their hats and stuff, and their tour for their tourism and all of that. So it's the same thing that Tyreek did with FBA. And if you're a foundational Black American, right, he has not sued any of us to not, who make T-shirts and all of that. I want to get into Black American. Oh, wait. I got more information about this Yoruba trademark, right? Because aren't Yorubas the one that made the word fair use?
Let me check the details on those trademark filings. Let me dig a little deeper to see what I can find about Shake and Go. I found that Timbuktu, a British clothing brand, registered the trademark for Yoruba in 2015. It caused a major uproar on social media because they attempted to block an African cultural center from using the name Yoruba Stars. After significant backlash, they deactivated their accounts and announced they would give the trademark to the center for free. However, I couldn't find any information linking a company called Shake and Go to a trademark for Yoruba. See who else might have made an attempt to register that mark. I couldn't find any other notable instances of companies or individuals who have attempted to trademark Yoruba other than the Timbuktu case we already discussed.
TLDR. The image shows a summary of a controversy surrounding the hair care and beauty brand Shake and Go, which faced significant public backlash after reports emerged that it trademarked the word Yoruba for commercial use. Core breakdown of the screenshot: the incident, Shake and Go, a major hair and beauty product company, sparked social media outrage by securing/attempting a commercial trademark on Yoruba, the name of a major West African ethnic group and language. Key accusations: critics and content creators argued that turning and living ethnic groups' cultural identity into a protected corporate asset is a form of cultural exploitation and intellectual property overreach. Historical precedent: the text links this event to a similar 2021 incident involving the UK-based clothing company Timbuktu Global, which faced similar public condemnation for registering a trademark on Yoruba in the United Kingdom, before ultimately surrendering the rights and issuing an apology.
So there are conflicting reports because when I used a different search engine, they couldn't find the shake and go incident, but I already knew because I checked this here. I don't know if it is a big, you know how social media trends take off and the shit be false. So I don't know if that's the case, but guess what? Bo, you ain't safe either. All the hell they give us as foundational Black Americans, at least Tariq Nasheed is a foundational Black American who popularized or coined and revamped the foundational Black American term from Native Black Americans. Both terms, okay, created to make a distinction by who? Foundational Black Americans. For whom? Foundational Black Americans. Y'all got Asians all up in your mix, and I'm surprised you said something because the Africans and the Jamaicans love themselves some Chinese people. I tell you no lies. They do. Let me tell you something about Jamaican women. They could be a certain complexion, no Chinese ancestry. They gonna name themselves Chin. I gotta tell you. Okay? You know how some Black Americans may have a slant to their eye, but we don't go to thinking Asian. We just think that's their features, right? Mm-mm. Mm-mm. A Jamaican's gonna call themselves Chin. I gotta tell you. But it's like kind of weird. I do, and I really do this. There's some content creators that I just don't clip. But I do have a segment from one of Tyreek Nasheed's lives, so it is fair use. And this is like I think it's around the time when Tasha K first said what she said. What he said really stuck out to me, and so I kind of want to play it for you all, just to remind everybody that some people are full of shit. Fair use.
Belly of the society. They do that all the time. They don't do that to their culture. The minute you talk about their culture, oh y'all like, oh shit, y'all worked in the KKK. Fuck out of here. The hell out of here. They're the main ones talking about we're divisive, and they spent decades denigrating us like damn parasites. You know? And just like Tasha K, she has built a platform being disrespectful by lying on people, gossiping about people, talking about foundational Black American entertainers' children, all just denigrating everybody. False information about people. And then when somebody throws an insult at her African husband, all of a sudden, oh God, y'all is working in the KKK. I'm all about Black solidarity. Black solidarity? Really? Your blog ain't about no damn Black solidarity? You run a business model on undermining foundational Black Americans and then want to hide behind the shield of Pan-African solidarity when everybody starts clapping back. You see? But yeah, there's an awakening, man. And the foundational Black Americans have disrupted that whole business model. And people are terrified because of that awakening. You see? We allow these people to sit in our house, eat our food, disrespect us to the world, and they haven't faced any real consequences. Now that we have delineated, we're more economically astute, economically aware, culturally aware, we are defending our lineage. So that old business model is bleeding. You see? And they're upset because they will not be able to just sit here and denigrate us for free continuously. And just, we're calling out that whole straw man con game when they try to shrink our lineage into some four-wall organization. You see? They're trying to, I call that backdoor denigrating. That's not a misunderstanding. at all. They know exactly what they're doing, and they underestimate our intelligence to see past that because people ain't buying it. When people sit up here and then I ain't talking about all black people. I'm just talking about this group called FBA. That's what I'm talking about. Everybody's like, no, nigga, you talking about all of us and we see you because ain't no damn group. There is no group. You can't make up a group and attack some group that don't exist. You're talking about all of us and we see it for what it is. And they're getting called out for that. Because foundational Black Americans are collectively too smart and too politically astute to fall for that proxy con game. You see, we know how to read the room. We know how to read between the lines. We see what it is. We see the sleight of hand, and they're mad that we're calling it out. You see? And that whole Tariq, well, FBA, these just the people who follow Tariq. That con game is falling too. That's a failed con game because that's not what FBA is. Foundational Black American does not mean who follows me. You're either born into it or you're not. You cannot follow your own ancestry. You understand? These people are terrified of our delineation because they cannot siphon off of us like they used to, and they can't hide behind us and hide their failures behind us and then delineate when they get a win. You see? They don't want to admit that this is a nationwide grassroots awakening of an entire ethnic group. That's massive. And they don't need us to be on that vibe. They need us to be thinking that we are generic Africans so they can benefit from everything that we do while then turning around telling us we ain't got no culture because everything we do culturally, we have to chop it up to them. Family, you know what it's like the Olympics. It's like the Olympics. You know, they want us to be on the Olympic team with them. It's like the Olympic basketball team. With the Olympic team, they want us to play for the whole country, basically. We're playing for the whole country. We're playing the Olympic team for the whole country. And usually it's just one group of people doing all the heavy lifting. But all of these other people who are kind of who's slower, with lack of skill, they're not as thorough, but just because they're on the team, whenever the team wins, they win. You know what I'm saying? Just like when they had the Olympic team, remember they had, what year was that? They had Jordan, Magic, Rodman. It was like a super damn team. They were just whooping everybody. So there was some other players on there, but you don't remember who they were. So they like the Olympic team when there's one group doing the heavy lifting on the team. There's always that one player who's kind of doing, the dream team. Yeah, they want an Olympic team so they can benefit off the wins that one of the main players is doing. There's one main person or a couple of main people carrying the whole team. They like that. Now, when the Olympics is over and the team disaggregates, now it's an individual team. Everybody goes back to their respective teams. Now we see who's really thorough and who's not. Now we see who's thorough. So now the star player on the Olympic team, he's playing on his own team and he's winning. We're showing that he has a lot of numbers on the board, and all these other people who was on the Olympic team, they ain't getting no numbers individually. That's what we're seeing with delineation, ladies and gentlemen. We as foundational Black American, we've been the star player under this generic African shit. We were the star players, ladies and gentlemen, winning for everybody. And these bench warmers were benefiting, basking in the glory, and then turning around telling us we didn't have a culture because every win was going to the whole team and they were acting like the damn team captains. Because they were directly from Africa. We were like, we're generic Africans, but we're the real Africans, nigga. So we're the team captain. So everything we do comes from Africa. Every win is a win for Africa. Okay. So when we delineate, now all the winning players are over here on Team FBA. All right. And now you got a bunch of bench warmers on the other side who ain't putting nothing on the board. We're the captains now. Like, oh shit. Well, we must get together. We must be a team. We cannot delineation is wrong, nigga. Oh, no. So yeah, we're seeing that these other folks can't put nothing on the board. That's where all of this whining and stuff is coming from. You see? Yeah, we didn't cut the umbilical cord. So yeah, they need us on the team because they don't have no wins. Nowhere. Yeah? Very interesting. So yeah, this whole thing of, oh, it's Tariq. Tariq is doing this shit. Ain't nobody falling for that. Nobody's falling for that. That con game is done. You're trying to remix our lineage, trying to blame it on one guy's followers. No, that don't work. And ain't nobody buying that. And people see the con game for what it is. You see? Let me get some of the family on here, because we got a lot of folks on here. Shout out to the family. Let's get the family in here. Where you at, fam? Raise your hands.
So I just want to say this. If you're a foundational Black American in New York, right? A foundational Black American, a New York foundational Black American, and you live or reside in the Bronx, if you look at, and you know where Unionport Road is, there was once a church. It is said to be the first Black church in the borough. It had a grave site attached to it. And I found that at first they said the bodies were not exhumed, but that there was an Asian market on top of where the grave sites were supposed to be. And that there are organizations trying to put plaques up near the market or on the market somewhere strategically, I'm sure, and that so that it could just showcase that our ancestors were buried there at one point in time. Tell the history, the significance of it. So I called, I had to speak to the National Parks Service and all these other people. The same people, I think it's the same people that maintain the Negro burial ground, like that department. Not the actual burial ground, but the parks department, right? And so we had a conference call and everything, and they gave me some resources and things of that nature. So just because people don't see the work being done doesn't mean that the work's not being done. Come to find out, some were really nice to me from the parks department. And one lady was just like, oh no, bodies were exhumed, boom, that's it. Like it was kind of cold. But the other ones, they were nice. And they took the time to explain everything to me. And so now it's like, okay, the plaque has to be there, but they are reinterred. They are. And the history with that is, I just told you it was said to be the first Black church in the Bronx. David Ruggles. How many of y'all heard me talk about David Ruggles, that he was such a kick-ass abolitionist from New York that the slave catchers said they wanted his head? He had an affiliation with that church. However, he was not buried there. He's buried in Connecticut. New York has such a painful but beautiful history. And as you can see, every now and then, the history has to be, well, the history should always be revisited. Like just knowing what happened to the Negro burial ground and how it was founded, and since 1991, and they were reinterred and stuff. knowing that there's ancestors under gas stations in New York. Understanding that some of our ancestors were disturbed for redevelopment in New York. And I just want to take the time to thank those who have been actively trying to preserve our ancestors' final resting sites or have them at least acknowledged. I know that Arthur has taken up the reign. So sometimes it be that Negro telepathy and we don't even know the other person is working on this. I believe in working in silence. I don't believe in telling everybody. I'm in the belly of the beast. You should see what I'm talking to other ethnic groups when I find out Black history, especially in New York. You could tell the look of if this bitch don't shut up. I can't put it no other way. Or they're just so disinterested. A lot of things you don't tell people you working on because even without them knowing I'm spiritual, I believe in the evil eye. And if our ancestors are working for us, those ancestors who were also against our ancestors are still against us. So some things I keep hush. Not do the work. But it seems like there are a bunch of Black Americans throughout the nation because Arthur is assisting, and Arthur is the Freedmen Nation, U.S. Freedmen's Nation. And he's assisting people, I think in Virginia and stuff. But I found out my information because I was looking at weird stuff that happened in the city. And I found out there was like an illegal rodeo, not the rodeo we were talking about that was appropriating Black cowboy history from Brooklyn. It was a rodeo by some Latinos. And the Bull Gorge, is that the word? Harmed the bull rider. He was 25. And so I said, the animals acting up. There's a whole bunch of thunderstorms. Somebody told me New York was rumbling, like the ground was shaking, but there was an earthquake, like in Venezuela or Colombia or something like that. I said, the ancestors gotta be acting up. Let me see if there was a Black town by where they had the rodeo. What Black incident, what Black town, or what Black tragedy could have happened in that area? And that's how I found the church. The Brooklyn Bridge, July 4th, fireworks went off on the bridge. It caught fire, not a massive fire. I said, let me see if there was a Black town of settlement where the Brooklyn Bridge used to be. I got to tell you, I didn't never think about that before. You know, you look at it and you be like, yeah, I wonder what was there before. Well, me. I'm going to keep it on me because, I don't want people get all, don't put that all on us. I knew. And there was. Central Park, we know what happened in Central Park. And I told y'all how the horse went crazy and flipped the carriage, right? So it's just been little instances. And every time those little instances act up, I say, let me see if any way, shape, or form of fashion, the ancestors was in that area at one point in time. And I got to tell you, they have. Every instance I looked up. And I got about 5 of those. So even in New York, I'm not saying that New York is like, you know how Lake Lanier, you just know you taking a risk, especially if you ain't Black American, okay? Going on Lake Lanier, our ancestors act up at certain times, things you wouldn't even think happen. You also got to look out for animals and how they react around certain times. Trust me. Animals are also guides or messengers and stuff like that. So yeah, that's how I found out about the Black church and the history. So hopefully they could get the plaque up there. Of course, I'm gonna check back in and see what's going on. These people are not all Black American. I gotta tell you, there are some white folks, right? You can tell by the last name. And they said that's what they do. They're like a cultural preservation. Um, so yeah, I don't care about I care about my ancestors and things that's going on. People being treated fairly to us. The erasure is enormous here. And a lot of people probably knew that, our ancestors are here and man, unjustly so, their grave sites have been redeveloped. Where they used to be have been redeveloped. There's a lot of us who don't even take the time to think about that. There's a lot of us who thought of it, but then, life starts life, and then you get a little busy. Yeah, I'm gonna check back, I'm gonna check back, I'm gonna check back. So if you're anywhere in the nation and you notice that data centers, because that's another thing are going up, look for advocacy groups, look for if it's by open land where the ancestors could have lived, just check all the land period, just to make sure, because we surprise you. We surprise you in the places I'd be surprised at some areas like, who want to live in Vermont? Like, who want to live there? All this snow. Like, I'd be surprised when our people or our ancestors are in these places that I don't like cold down. But I'm going to go on and stop rambling and stuff like that. I just wanted to kind of get that Tasha K stuff out the way. That was bothering me, but I wanted to have the facts. So that's why I had the resources. What she did was called hyperbole. Hyperbole. And although it was a horrible example or comparison that I hope she never makes again, because the resource also showed Black Americans ain't never lynched nobody. We ain't write policy to keep nobody away. We ain't deny them basic religion, like Jamaicans can't practice their religion over there, which is actually an ATR over there on the island. Like, we don't do these things to people. And who's the Jamaican government? They got a Jamaican prime minister. I don't know how their parliament works. I shouldn't even care. However, I want them to see that their attention is misguided. They got a bunch of problems on the island and they need to physically go there and fix them. That's the only way. Pan-Africanism is not going to work if y'all don't get up and physically go to the places that need the infrastructure. Because coming over here, displacing us, where you got damn near equal communities as us, and y'all ain't got time on this land like that. Y'all ain't put the skin in the game like that. And one lone Caribbean, I keep saying this shit, one lone Caribbean migrating to places like New York into a movement that's already going on, where he looked at his people and asked them why they wasn't as advanced as Black Americans, then turned around and sat with the Triple K and all type of shit. We supposed to keep highlighting him? Pan-Africans would say, yeah. And that was Marcus Garvey I was talking about. Now let's take Stokely Carmichael, who migrated to New York, was educated, I think, around all white folks, found his way from New York to the South under the Deacons of Defense, where he did the Black Power movement, or I'm Black and I'm Proud. He didn't come up with that shit for his own, because we found Trinidadians on tape saying they got Blackness from us. So when you look at Stokely Carmichael, he got that from the Deacons for Defense, the Deacons for Justice and Defense. Did I get that right? Right. Good morning, Sister Jackie. Because I just say the Deacons for Defense. So I want to be, fully accurate with their name. But we know who I'm talking about. And so we're going to move on to more, Tyreek and Tasha, that was Black American history. The resource also said they don't have no record of her saying that she had Bahamian ancestry. I mean, we could leave it alone now. We know she don't act like us. We know she's also a gossip blogger that's sensitive about her husband. I heard the husband laugh. He probably used to it by now. He probably be in spaces that maybe she just don't see when she's working. Namely, TikTok. Because over there is the hot ass mess. And that's it. But yeah, I just don't like that Triple K reference or anything. People may not realize, but on TikTok, FBA, works with So Long, works with ADOS, works with this one, that, and the third. Do we have a little tits and tats or a little back and forth? But it ain't because of how we identify. It really don't be because how we identify, not to my knowledge. Sometimes it could be ours. That's the Africans still bothering us. But we just be like, oh yeah, we all that. And we go on bothering or having our discussions. Because I don't go in to the rooms to bother the tethers. But guess what? They come into ours and that's when I take their head off. Not literally, but in my rebuttals. So I think that it's not us, from my viewpoint, and a lot of other people on TikTok, so much bothering them. They literally come in our rooms talking shit. Fuck them. And they feelings. Fair use.
They're trying to manufacture a civil rights era 2.0, and it ain't working because they aren't smart people. They're hoping that in the next 20 years, their current actions will be able to allow them to turn this into the new moral movement of America. These political strategists, if you want to call them that, are taking a very specific Black American constitutional fight and attempting to copy and paste it onto modern immigration politics to build a new voter base simply because they want to avoid having to deal with the Black American and the debt that they owe. Not happening. Let's establish some truth. The 1960 Civil Rights Movement, which actually started long before that, was an organic bottom-up fight by Black Americans. But the DNC is going for a manufactured top-down approach haphazardly. See, our ancestors built this country's infrastructure, paid into its tax base, and fought in its foreign wars while suffering under legal disenfranchisement on U.S. soil. When Black Americans fought, the demand was very, very clear. A domestic battle to get back what the U.S. government owes. You ain't getting out of that. Now look at how the establishment tries to recreate that magic today and why it constantly falls flat. They first flooded the country with millions of undocumented illegal immigrants right in our faces with benefits. Then came the political theater. Let's take it to Minnesota, where nonprofit networks and local party leaders tried to coordinate staged top-down civil rights style marches using Somali diaspora groups. It feels artificial because it is artificial. It lacks the organic constitutional grounding of centuries-long Black American history, steeped in battle after battle of us fighting off a poisonous host on our land. Or look at the media meltdown over Haitian TPS holders. When federal agencies started enforcing standard non-citizen monitoring or even offering cash stipends and free flights home for voluntary return, mainstream media instantly started crying civil rights violation and invoking slavery-era optics. They do this because borrowing Black American moral capital is the fastest way to grant political immunity to global migration policies. And that is exactly why their script ain't resonating with the public. You can't conflate standard sovereign border management for non-citizens with the fight, plight, and constitutional rights of the original inhabitants. They have zero cachet in this country and no blood soaked in the soil. See, the DNC has been steadily losing its grip on the Black American voting bloc because the younger generations are saying the jig is up. So these party strategists are desperate and scrambling to engineer a replacement base. They're attempting to stitch together a new coalition by casting newly arrived populations as the new front line of civil rights. But in doing so, they end up subverting the distinct blood and sweat legacy of Black Americans. And we warned y'all that this is a brand new day and a throwback breed of Black Americans that you gotta deal with. You gotta deal with this.
You know what the common theme is? We've warned them to leave us alone. We warned them to stop doing this, warned them to stop doing that. And people don't like our response. Yes, he is always cooking, Sister Jackie. I do want to get to the origin of Black August. We do understand that that is our Revolutionary History Month, right? That was started because of George Jackson of Soledad Brothers and a California prison system, right? Now, when I learned about Black August, because I didn't always know about Black August, was from Facebook around 2015, 2016. Okay. On Facebook, it was a different type of demographic. We were also operating off of race. So we went at white people a lot. White women used to always love to tell us how they sleeping with our men and our men didn't like us, this, that, and third. And I would jump in the comment section and drag the fuck out of it. And that's how come I know the stat for Black relationships so well, because it's like, if he is over there with you telling you stuff about Black American women, well, at that time we could say Black and it meant us, about Black women, then good riddance. Like, keep them. Like, what do we want to worry about somebody who want a white woman for? We want a man that's going to love on us. White men was also the worst. And the Russians, to go back and forth with them, they were the real bots. They were the Russian bots. And we knew then that they were having people come to purposely disrupt our rooms. We knew then. We knew about the Africans and stuff. It's like history was repeating itself when it recently came out again that the Ghanaians are now the ones chosen. But there was some type of African before that the Russians were paying. Like these associations, and Black Americans just be going on our way, thinking we came from Africa. Like, we was really, really on that on Facebook. Race, blackness, fighting with the white people. And that's why I always tell everybody, I started realizing a while ago, nothing that the immigrants say, and I said this, y'all know I said this, nothing that the immigrants, the melanated immigrants are saying to me today that a white man never told me in 2010, right? Because I know I say that. I said they just picked up the white tea supremacist old script, dusted it off, and think that they hitting on something. But I heard it all before. I thought of the song just said. I heard it all before from Facebook. We was really in the groups going at the white team men and all of this, thinking everybody was marginalized the same. I know there was all these caucuses or this, that, and the third. I didn't even know that they had locked us out of home ownership. Could see certain things within the community, but I didn't know how systemic it was. Why? Because Pan Africanism 101 teaches you to uphold people like Garvey, who sat with the Triple K. And it's in one of these resources I have for Black August. Because Black August, to celebrate it or spread the news about it, some people do have events. But usually on social media, we follow a calendar, we pick a day, and we find something that happened in August, and we, correlate it with the right day and spread the news, make awareness about it. But not Black August, but Pan Africanism 101 will have you celebrating these people, places, and things over your own homeland. So I want to show you the calendar from 2016, Pan Africans Black August calendar. You ready for this? Now, mind you, it's based off of George Jackson and Soledad Brothers. So what I did, I didn't go with this color scheme, y'all. I opted to leave Haiti out, Nelson Mandela out. I didn't even do all our people, but I think I did all the towns and stuff where we either had a thriving civil rights movement, land was taken, or we were attacked, because that's our history. But look at this. Marcus Garvey has his own box. Jonathan Jackson is George Jackson's youngest brother. Thank goodness he has his own box. Jackson, who I'm assuming is George Jackson, the whole reason for Black August is here with, and he's with, and I get the symbolism of it. He's in the same box with Nat Turner. Why doesn't Nat Turner have his own box? It says Turner and Jackson. But Marcus Garvey got his own box. Nelson Mandela, Steve Biko. Who else up here? Jamaica has its own box. Fidel Castro. So I made my own calendar, and I may not have all these names up there, but I'm sorry, y'all, if I'm seeming petty, but this is Pan Africanism 101. And look, it says Black August, Take the Pledge 2016. This is from Facebook, fair use. Now, I made my calendar, y'all. This is my creation, y'all. So Nat Turner has his own box. Jonathan, I know I got George up here. See, George is the first one. And I got Debbie Sims, Africa here. She's on the other calendar too. I put Mega Evers in here. I don't even think we talk about Mega Evers too much. But the reason why he stuck out to me was because somebody had mentioned his name, and I remembered that Mega Evers College used to have affirmative action. Yeah, Miss Vita. I'm guilty of that too, because in 2016, I was following the calendar and stuff. But we are taking back Black August. Y'all can make your own calendar, honestly, right? And how and who you want to put on the calendar is at your discretion. And you can teach whoever you're around about Black August, about our revolutionary, about incidents during periods of time that we went through our history. So when people start complaining about they taking this away, they removing that, I don't always agree with certain things being removed. But as far as school goes, we know that's indoctrination, and nobody's going to teach our history better than us. They be changing words to make it seem like, oh, the labor was good for them because they learned some things. They came here skilled. They just needed to understand how certain things worked over here, certain terrains, what was indigenous or like, and then the ones who were always here were already skilled. How did they survive? And then we always quote those who be like, only a fool. Who said it first? Only a fool would let the oppressor teach their children. And we gonna complain that they taking Black history out of school? What was they teaching? Because I ain't learned about alligator bait in school. I learned about alligator bait from an elder who ran a Facebook page. I learned Facebook was good when it was good. Now TikTok is where you're learning a lot of Black history from what people are telling me, right? But elders had Black history groups. I learned Black history on Facebook. I learned how to debate white men on Facebook. So it was good when it was good, but y'all could go ahead and make your own calendar and stuff. Where I'm not usually you do it day by day by day by day. I do have 3 parts of this history. It's going to take 3 parts. I'm only going to play one today and then come back either later today or early tomorrow, and we will listen to the rest. I have been up here for an hour and 43 minutes. And after this, I'm going to go get some breakfast. But I did want to come back because I said I would come back the 15th. I got frustrated. You should see how many times I did this calendar. I'm happy with it. Now, people will be like, BX don't have graphics. And you damn right I don't. I'm an author that outsourced, meaning I paid the professionals to do it. But this is my work, y'all, and I'm proud of it. Fair use, we're going to get into the origins. I ain't going to keep. Yes, have a good day, Ali. I'm not going to keep up here talking and reminiscing. We're going to get into the origins of Black August, okay? A month, a historical month of resistance. Fair use.
Black August originated in the California prison system during the 1970s as a dedicated period of commemoration, reflection, and political education. Founded by incarcerated black activists, the month honors the long legacy of black American resistance against systemic oppression, state violence, and racial injustice. Origins and historical roots. The George Jackson Legacy. The month was established following the death of George Jackson, a political prisoner, author, and member of the Black Panther Party, who was killed at San Quentin State Prison on August 21, 1971. Commemoration of resistance. August was chosen because several pivotal historical events, rebellions, and acts of resistance led by black Americans occurred during this month throughout U.S. history. Key historical events commemorated. The Nat Turner Rebellion, 1831. One of the most significant slave revolts in American history, led by Nat Turner in Virginia. The Underground Railroad. Key actions and escapes organized by Harriet Tubman and other black abolitionists often reached heightened activity in late summer. The March on Washington, 1963. The historic civil rights demonstration where black activists demanded economic and civil rights on August 28th. The Watts Rebellion, 1965. A major uprising in Los Angeles sparked by police brutality, signaling a turning point in the urban civil rights movement. Core principles and practices. Self-discipline and fasting. Participants often engage in fasting from sunrise to sunset, abstaining from alcohol and drugs, and limiting physical indulgences to build mental and physical discipline. Political education. Study groups, reading revolutionary literature, and analyzing history are central to observing the month. Focus on political prisoners. A primary focus remains raising awareness for political prisoners, mass incarceration, and institutional prison reform. TLDR Summary. The Soledad brothers were 3 black inmates falsely accused of killing a white prison guard in 1970 following a racially charged shooting at Soledad Prison. The attempt to free them led to the bloody Marin County Courthouse incident, and George Jackson's eventual death at San Quentin sparked major prison rebellions across the U.S., most notably the Attica Uprising. The Soledad brothers. The incident, January 1970, at California's Soledad State Prison. A white guard shot and killed 3 black inmates during a yard fight. A grand jury ruled the killings justified homicide. Days later, a white guard was thrown from a prison tower and killed in retaliation. The accused, incarcerated activists George Jackson, Fleta Drumgo, and John Clutchette, were charged with the guard's death, facing the death penalty under California's automatic execution law for inmates serving life sentences. Political impact. The 3 men became internationally known as political prisoners. Angela Davis and the Black Panther Party organized nationwide defense campaigns, framing the case as a symbol of racial repression within the American penal system. The Marin County Courthouse incident, the jailbreak attempt, August 7, 1970. Jonathan Jackson, the 17-year-old younger brother of George Jackson, stormed the Marin County Courthouse in San Rafael, California, during a trial for another inmate, James McLean. The hostages, armed with weapons, some registered to Angela Davis, Jonathan Freed McLean, Ruchel McGee, and William Christmas. They took the judge, a prosecutor, and 3 jurors hostage, demanding the immediate release of the Soledad brothers. The outcome: as the group attempted to drive away in a van, police opened fire. Jonathan Jackson, McLean, Christmas, and Judge Harold Haley were killed. Prosecutor Gary Thomas and inmate Ruchel McGee were severely wounded. George Jackson's death and subsequent prison riots. August 21, 1971. At San Quentin State Prison, George Jackson was shot and killed by guards. Officials claim Jackson attempted an armed escape using a smuggled gun, while supporters maintained he was assassinated by the state. 5 guards and 3 inmates were also killed during the incident. The Attica Prison Uprising, September 1971. News of Jackson's death sparked nationwide anger. Inmates at Attica Correctional Facility in New York held a silent, day-long fast in honor of Jackson. Tensions erupted weeks later into a full-scale uprising where prisoners seized control of the facility to demand basic human rights, resulting in the violent retaking of the prison by state forces that left 43 people dead. Nationwide rebellions. Jackson's death triggered strikes, fasts, and coordinated protests in prisons across the country, fundamentally transforming the American prison movement and cementing the tradition of Black August. TLDR Summary. Before the 1970 Marin County Courthouse breakout, George Jackson was trapped in an abusive, indefinite sentence for a minor robbery. James McLean, Ruchel McGee, and William Christmas were black political prisoners incarcerated inside California's maximum security prisons, who met Jackson through radical study groups and prison organizing. George Jackson's arrest, alleged crime and unfair sentencing. The arrest, 1960. At age 18, George Jackson was accused of participating in a robbery that yielded $70 from a Los Angeles gas station. The plea bargain trap. Despite evidence of his innocence, Jackson's court-appointed attorney advised him to plead guilty to second-degree robbery in exchange for a lenient county jail sentence. The 1 year to life sentence. The court ignored expectations of a light sentence and handed down an indeterminate sentence of 1 year to life under California law. Institutional trap. Under the indeterminate system, his release depended on annual parole board decisions. Because Jackson refused to bow to guards, studied radical literature, and organized other black prisoners, guards routinely cited him for disciplinary infractions. This kept him locked up for over 10 years, 7.5 of them in solitary confinement, for a $70 theft. Profiles of the men involved. Ruchel Cinque McGee. Early upbringing. Born in 1939 in Franklinton, Louisiana, McGee grew up in the Jim Crow South in an area heavily controlled by the Ku Klux Klan. First frame-up, 1955. At age 16, he was accused of attempted rape involving a white woman. Despite maintaining his innocence, and evidence that he was involved in an underground interracial relationship, an all-white jury convicted him in a single day, sentencing him to 12 years of hard labor at Angola Penitentiary. California incarceration and meeting Jackson. After moving to Los Angeles upon release, he was arrested again following a dispute over a car, resulting in a life sentence. Inside San Quentin and Soledad, McGee became politicized, added Cinque to his name after the Amistad rebel leader, and aligned with George Jackson, participating in prison study circles and legal battles against state corruption. James McClain. Upbringing and incarceration. McClain was a Black Panther activist imprisoned in California. Meeting George Jackson. While serving time at San Quentin, McClain became deeply involved in revolutionary politics alongside Jackson. The frame-up McClain was charged inside prison for allegedly stabbing a prison guard. His August 7, 1970 court hearing at the Marin County Courthouse, where he was acting as his own defense attorney, became the setting for the breakout attempt. William Arthur Christmas. Upbringing and incarceration. William Christmas was a Black Panther activist and inmate imprisoned at San Quentin. Meeting George Jackson. Christmas connected with Jackson inside San Quentin through organized political education and prison reform activism aimed at uniting black prisoners against institutional abuse. Presence at the courthouse. On August 7, 1970, Christmas was brought to the Marin County Courthouse alongside Ruchel McGee as a subpoenaed defense witness to testify on behalf of James McClain. ELDR summary. Lockdowns, racial gang alliances, and harsh conditions continue to persist across the American prison system, though court interventions have curbed official racial segregation policies. Black Americans make up the vast majority of exonerations, roughly 60%, due to deep-seated systemic bias and police misconduct. Numerous legal defense networks, innocence organizations, and grassroots groups actively fight to free wrongfully incarcerated black individuals and reform the prison system. Current status: lockdowns, gangs, and racial conditions. Systemic lockdowns, modified operations, institutional shutdowns, and extended lockdowns remain standard security measures used by correctional departments to control prison populations. Ending official segregation policies. Historically, states like California officially segregated housing based on race following fights or riots. Federal court rulings, such as the U.S. Supreme Court decision in Johnson v. California, 2005, ruled that race-based housing and lockdown policies violated the Equal Protection Clause, forcing state facilities to phase out official race-based isolation tactics. Persisting gang alliances. Despite official policy changes, prison social dynamics remain heavily polarized. The historical alliances formed in the 1970s, such as the Mexican Mafia, La INE, alongside the Aryan Brotherhood, versus rival groups, continue to influence underground prison dynamics, contraband markets, and territorial friction inside maximum security facilities. Exoneration rates of black inmates. According to ongoing research and tracking by the National Registry of Exonerations, disproportionate overrepresentation. Black Americans account for approximately 13% to 14% of the U.S. population, yet they represent nearly 60% of all exonerated individuals in the United States. Primary causes. Misconduct by law enforcement and prosecutors is the leading cause of wrongful convictions for black defendants, occurring at significantly higher rates in black cases compared to white cases. Longer sentences lost. Black exonerees spend an average of 45% more time in prison before exoneration than their white counterparts wrongfully convicted of similar crimes. Advocacy organizations addressing these harms. Multiple organizations actively fight systemic abuses, wrongful convictions, and the harsh conditions faced by black inmates. The Innocence Project and regional networks focuses on post-conviction DNA testing and legal advocacy to overturn wrongful convictions. The network has helped liberate hundreds of black individuals serving life sentences or facing death row. The Exoneration Project, a legal clinic and nonprofit providing free legal representation to wrongfully convicted individuals, with a direct focus on combating police corruption, false confessions, and racial framing. Equal Justice Initiative, EJI, founded by Brian Stevenson, EJI provides legal representation to individuals who have been illegally convicted, unfairly sentenced, or abused in state jails and prisons, while documenting racial injustice and challenging extreme sentencing practices. The Sentencing Project conducts research and policy advocacy to eliminate racial disparities in the criminal justice system, end mass incarceration, and repeal mandatory minimum laws and life sentences. Black Lives Matter and grassroots bail funds. Local and national grassroots advocacy groups work to dismantle pretrial detention traps, eliminate cash bail, and provide resources and legal backing for black inmates facing systemic mistreatment behind bars. Statistics, gang dynamics, and prison conditions previously described focus heavily on adult male facilities. The realities faced by black women and black youth behind bars involve distinct patterns of systemic abuse, institutional violence, and legal framing. Black women in prison, rival gang dynamics, and cell block politics. Less group-based gang warfare. Women's correctional facilities feature significantly less structured, race-based gang warfare, such as LAIME versus BGF, compared to men's maximum security prisons. State-sanctioned control. Instead of rival gang dominance, control and violence in women's facilities are driven primarily by correctional staff and institutional power dynamics. Targeting of independent black women. Black women who organize against abusive prison staff or demand legal rights are often targeted for disciplinary solitary confinement, labeled as disruptive, or transferred away from support networks. Sexual violence and staff exploitation. Systemic sexual abuse. The primary threat of violence facing black women in prison comes directly from correctional officers and prison staff through sexual assault, coerced sexual favors for basic necessities, hygiene products, phone access, and invasive body searches. Retaliation for reporting. Black women who report staff-administered sexual violence face extreme administrative retaliation, including extended solitary confinement, loss of family visitation, and denial of parole. The abuse to prison pipeline. Over 80% of incarcerated women experienced physical or sexual violence prior to their arrest. Rather than receiving trauma-informed care, black women are criminalized for self-defense or survival strategies stemming from domestic and sexual abuse. Exoneration rates for black women. Massive overrepresentation. Black women make up approximately 13% of the U.S. female population, yet account for nearly 50% of all exonerated women in the United States. Key causes: misconduct by police and prosecutors, alongside false accusations and unreliable eyewitness identification, serves as the primary driver of wrongful convictions among black women. Black youth in detention and adult prisons. Rival gangs and adult prison placement. Direct target of gang recruitment and violence. Black youth tried as adults and placed in adult facilities face extreme danger, as they are routinely targeted by older, established adult prison gangs for exploitation, extortion, and forced participation in violent feuds. Institutional isolation. To protect youth housed in adult facilities, prisons often place black youth in solitary confinement for up to 23 hours a day, causing severe long-term psychological harm. Physical and sexual abuse in youth facilities. High rates of staff and peer violence. Youth detention centers, juvenile halls, and training schools exhibit widespread physical, verbal, and sexual abuse. Black youth report high rates of physical assault by custodial staff and excessive use of mechanical restraints. Sexual abuse exploitation. According to Department of Justice data on juvenile facilities, black youth, particularly young black girls and gender non-conforming youth, face alarming rates of sexual victimization committed by both adult staff and older peers within residential facilities. Exoneration rates for black youth. Disproportionate miscarriages of justice. Black youth are disproportionately subjected to wrongful convictions, often driven by coerced false confessions extracted during aggressive police interrogations without parents or attorneys present. Extreme disparity in adult transfer. Black youth are over 5 times more likely to be incarcerated than white youth for similar offenses, and are far more likely to be tried as adults, locking them into long adult sentences before they reach maturity. LDR Summary. Kamala Harris's political career and lineage face scrutiny from black Americans who point to her family background, self-identification timeline, and prosecutorial record as district attorney and attorney general. Her policies, such as California's anti-truancy laws, disproportionately targeted low-income black families and expanded criminalization, while her lineage stems from Jamaican enslavers rather than the U.S.
So here is going to kind of go to the current times. I focused on Kamala Harris, why we were displeased with her. I'm not from Cali, but she did call herself the top cop. And then it's going to switch to other politicians, but then it's going to go right back into Black August. So I always tell y'all, I can't tell you who to vote for. I can only give you the information. State and local really counts. And right now we have to understand days that we, no matter where we are in the nation, right? We have to understand what day our state and local or is election day. I believe they're still having primaries for some people. I'm independent, so I can't vote in primaries and stuff, but I want y'all to stay involved, at least knowing the days and trying to spark an interest for you to look at certain things, or else we're going to end up with another. I don't want us ending up with no more top cops. I don't want us being. I know that we're always going to face something in our nation, but I want us to be involved in the process of limiting it and trying to get people in there who genuinely care about us. So it is going to veer into politics for a few moments, and then it'll get right back into the Black August history. But it's important. This is where, when I was researching and a name would come up, I'd be like, oh, let me look into this. But I really wanted everybody to hear why we were displeased with Kamala, because if you follow Afro Elite, which a lot of you do, right? I gotta, y'all came over here to see me, right? And I thank you for that. He had a live explaining how Kamala is doing a shadow campaign as she advocates for the candidates that she backs, and she's in the South doing it. So I just kind of wanted to remind people why, if you hear some Black Americans speak, they question her heritage, her ethnic group, lineage, however you want to say it, and the policies that she, that was harmful to our Californians, that we did not want her in office. Not everybody was pro Kamala. So I'm gonna go ahead back to the resource. Let me read your comment. I know so intuitively was saying that he feels that um, parts of the prison system was, or the way that they were targeted was to take away voting rights. I missed the year, but he wrote it if you want to scroll up and get it and read that. Ms. Rita says, actually, there was a huge rehabilitation program in 70s until early 80s, giving second chances to some prisoners. Okay, this has changed since, since the war on narcotics. Intuitively says they created the 94 crime bill on lockup and to use foreigner for labor. That was a plan. Thank you, y'all, for the insight. I kind of remember the second chances to some prisoners. This has changed. Well, I'm going to go back to the resource, y'all. Thanks again. Fair use.
U.S. chattel slavery experience. Biography, foreign heritage, and identity timeline. Family roots. Born in Oakland, California in 1964, Kamala Harris is the daughter of two foreign immigrants. Her mother, Shamala Gopalan, was a biomedical scientist from India, and her father, Donald J. Harris, is an economics professor from Jamaica. Ancestral lineage. Her father publicly wrote in 2018 that his family line in Jamaica descends from Hamilton Brown, a prominent 19th century Irish plantation owner and enslaver in Jamaica. Consequently, Harris does not descend from the U.S. chattel slavery lineage or foundational Black American history. Upbringing. Harris was raised primarily by her mother in California. Following her parents' divorce, she moved at age 12 to Montreal, Canada, completing middle and high school there before returning to the U.S. for college. HBCU and sorority. She attended Howard University in Washington, D.C., graduating in 1986. While at Howard, she was initiated into the Alpha chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority, Inc., aka Racial Identifier Timeline. Early in her political career, media coverage and public relations highlighted her as the first Indian American, or Asian American, district attorney and attorney general. As her political ambitions scaled nationally, campaign messaging shifted toward framing her as African American, or Black, drawing critique from Black Americans who noted that her lineage and self-designation do not align with the historical experience of U.S. freedmen descendants. Displeasure and harmful policies in California. As District Attorney of San Francisco, 2004 to 2011, and Attorney General of California, 2011 to 2017, Harris operated as California's self-described top cop, advancing criminal justice measures that heavily impacted black communities. California Anti-Truancy Law, SB 1317. Harris sponsored and championed a 2010 state law that criminalized parents of chronically absent elementary students, turning truancy into a misdemeanor punishable by up to $2,000 in fines or a year in county jail. Victims impacted. Low-income black mothers and families facing systemic barriers were heavily targeted. A notable case is Cherie Peoples, a black mother who was arrested in her pajamas in 2013 under truancy enforcement because her 11-year-old daughter suffered from severe sickle cell anemia, causing necessary school absences for hospitalization. Incarceration and labor exploitation. As Attorney General, her office defended state prison conditions in federal court, arguing against early parole for nonviolent offenders on the grounds that doing so would reduce the available prison labor pool relied upon for wildfire suppression and institutional labor. Marijuana prosecutions. Under her leadership, thousands of black individuals were prosecuted and convicted for low-level marijuana offenses in California prior to state-level legalization. Current policy status. While California subsequently removed jail time as a penalty for truancy, parental accountability frameworks remain embedded in local enforcement, and the criminal records generated during her tenure continue to impact those convicted. Nationwide displeasure among black Americans. Rejection of generic identity claims. Many black Americans, particularly those tracing their lineage directly to U.S. emancipated roots, object to national figures using broad political labels to claim representational authority without sharing the distinct lineage, legacy, or historical trajectory of U.S. slavery and Jim Crow segregation. Contradiction of mass incarceration record. Opponents emphasize the direct conflict between claiming to champion black interest while establishing a legislative record focused on the prosecution, criminalization, and mass incarceration of vulnerable black parents and communities. For further community analysis on these policies, watch Black Californians Discuss Kamala Harris Record, which features local perspectives on her tenure as prosecutor. YouTube, and your data will be stored and used by YouTube according to its terms of service.
Fair use.
No little girl will ever have to question how high she can reach or how much she can attain, and for that, her line sisters want to tell her how very proud of her they are.
Watch my Alpha Kappa Alpha line sister clear hurdles with Artemis ease while the world watches the foot strikes of her perseverance.
Today, millions of people watched from their homes as Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were sworn into office. But in the backyard of a house in Hyattsville, 13 women gathered with chucks on their feet, pearls on their necks, and so much pride in their hearts as they watched their sister become the 49th Vice President of the United States.
So today was really magical. What makes it even more special is that we have been in communication all these years since we graduated from college.
In 1986, on the campus of Howard University, Kamala Harris and her 37 line sisters were initiated into the Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. And even then, the 38 jewels of iridescent splendor knew their sister was destined for greatness.
She's the perfect person at the perfect time. We're just super excited. She's walking into her destiny, and I'm so happy.
So it seems like it was a win for Alpha, whatever, AKA. It was a win for the Irish enslavers, right? And it was a win for the first Indian Americans or the Indian Americans from India. It was not a win for black people. And we're going to examine how she touched the Freedmen's Bank, right? Yeah, it just wasn't a win. So Kamala Harris is actually going around the South and campaigning for the midterm elections. Afro Elite does a very good job of breaking down how it's her shadow campaign for 2028. So I can't tell you who to vote for, but I can give you the information so that you can make an informed decision. HBCUs are great in its original premise, but as you can see, some of them are now infested with little Kamala Harris's and African takeover days, right? So I just want to say this. One part of our culture does not dictate the whole. There are many, many strong Black Americans who did not have the privilege or the opportunity to attend an HBCU. Sometimes life be lifing. But shout out to the ones who get to go of the lineage. And shout out to the ones who graduate. And shout out to the ones who uphold the culture of HBCUs. And if you haven't heard by now, northern states, not just New York, for once, goddammit, northern states want to implement freedom schools as ours, right? And I asked, well, will they make it inclusive, or is it just for foundational Black Americans, you know, descendants of U.S. chattel slavery? And what they're going to do is make it inclusive. It's like we have the blueprint, but because they can't make their own blueprint, this is for all ethnic groups, because there's white people in them HBCUs. Kamala Harris is not a black woman. She's not a Black American woman. She's not a descendant of chattel slavery unless she's the descendant of the enslavers. If you're counting the Irish plantation owners, then wow, therapy is needed, right? So yeah, we have the blueprint. Them entering or basing their new ideas of what things or what schooling and education should look like causes an erasure to us. And I think that they should be penalized for doing so. I don't care if they call it the People of Color School, but what they should not call it is the Freedom School when they don't have ties to U.S. chattel slavery, nor should they be admitted into a freedom school. Actually, the immigrants are liberated here. They can't do half the shit they do in their homelands. But they come here and wave those flags around as if this is their homeland. And then they write policies that further subjugate foundational Black Americans. And I could get out of my feelings and revert you back to the information that was just presented. But in the meantime, this is not my video. This is not my work. But the questions are mine. The questions are real. The resources are cited, and it's up to y'all to do your due diligence. And with further ado, just remember, Kamala Harris is doing her shadow campaign, and for more information, you could go to Afro Elite's Live regarding that, where they'll have more information and a breakdown, point by point, of her questions to an interview. Fair use, guys, fair use.
Happy to know her.
They last spoke with their sister on Friday, their sorority's Founders Day.
And one of the things that she said is that no matter where she goes, whenever she sees us, she feels like it's coming back home. And one of the questions I asked her was, did you ever think that you would be Vice President of the United States of America?
What did she say?
She said no. It was really funny.
It's pretty unbelievable that happened. Doug needs to pinch her, I think, Leslie, to let her know that really did happen. But what I want to tell you about her line sisters is that they have been supporting her all throughout her journey. She pledged as a senior and then moved directly to California when she became district attorney and then state's attorney. They were there fundraising and holding her hand along the way. And that, Leslie, that is what we know to be the truest form of sisterhood.
It sure is. And I just want to say one thing, Adiane, I'm so glad that you had the experience of being around the Vice President's Line Sisters. They are a special group. And as we help to educate people about what Black sororities are about, your Line Sisters, they love you, they lift you, they challenge you, they check you, they do life with you. And so when you talk about this lifetime journey and how they have been there with her through the duration, that is what this sisterhood and what that sisterhood is about. I'm so glad to show it to the rest of the world. We'll be right back.
The Black sorority, you have a whole Irish Asian in that page. You got some Caribbeans in there too. Other Caribbeans, right? That probably descend from those who were enslaved on them islands. So, see how the news media lie? See how people lie. But one thing they cannot do is lie to us. So, yeah, people of color organizations should really be mindful that they're causing an erasure to foundational Black Americans. And basically, that's all we're saying. We're not the Triple K. As you can see, foundational Black Americans did not write policies like Kamala Harris, who is the descendant of Irish plantation owners and Indians from Asia. So Kamala Harris is the Triple K member. Y'all don't want to talk about that though, right? No, I'm joking. That's allegedly. That was a little joke. She's not the Triple K, but she's just as harmful. She's also a descendant of enslavers, which is even more harmful because she's continuing her ancestors' work right here in the United States of America. I personally am looking for her opponent, and may they be worthy and able to defeat her. So we won't get into Kamala Harris's touching the Freedmen Bank, saying that she won't specifically do anything for just black people, this, that, and the third, but we will go back to the original reason for Black August. And that is where, how I want to end this segment is where you can find George Jackson's writings and where the proceeds are going. Also, this will show everybody the power of a will, or why we should have a will. Even those of us who think wills are only for, you know, the elite, the wealthy, this, that, and the third, your family table could be an heirloom. I wish I had my grandmother's table. You know what I'm saying? Wish I had her antique sofa. So, even grandma's furniture are heirlooms. And so you should, or your valuables, your jewelry should be in a will. But I won't drag it out. You know, I get long-winded. So let's continue. Fair use.
Your writings of George Jackson. Soledad Brother, The Prison Letters of George Jackson, 1970. A collection of personal letters written while Jackson was incarcerated in Soledad and San Quentin state prisons. The letters document his political development, analyze the American penal system, critique capitalism and racism, and provide autobiographical reflections on his life and time in solitary confinement. Blood in My Eye, 1972. Completed just days before his death in August 1971, this book presents his theoretical framework on fascism, class struggle, and revolutionary strategy. It outlines his critique of the U.S. political system and advocates for organized resistance against institutional oppression. Purchasing the books, interested readers can acquire editions of both works through independent booksellers, major retailers, and institutional publishers. Soledad Brother, published and reissued by Chicago Review Press / Lawrence Hill Books. It is available directly through the publisher's website, as well as via major book outlets and independent sellers in paperback and digital formats. Blood in My Eye, published and distributed by Black Classic Press. It can be ordered directly from Black Classic Press, as well as from various independent book retailers and online vendors. Destination of proceeds and royalties. Historical disposition. Before his death, George Jackson formally willed his book royalties and legal defense funds to the Black Panther Party to support their legal battles and community programs. Current revenues today, sales revenues for commercial editions go toward the respective publishing houses, such as Black Classic Press and Chicago Review Press / Lawrence Hill Books, and distributing channels that hold the contemporary publication and print rights.
I hear you. So I'm going to acknowledge Miss Vita's comment. I'm reading the resource real quick. And Ms. Rita says, it is said only one of George Jackson's books is authentic. Soledad Brother is authentic. The other country, written by a white woman. That's a rumor, or you heard that in the resource? Miss Rita, if you're still in the room, 'cause I didn't hear that part. I could look into it though. You know they always touching something, white woman. Um, oh, co-written, co-written. Okay. Yeah. I think that when you co-write a book, you still do your part. So you wouldn't think that co-writing a book is authentic, or maybe they mean because she's white, how authentic to us would it be? Because it takes a lot to co-write stuff. She is on the publication. Okay. I would have to know his reasons. Because to me, it's okay to co-write a book, right? I would have to know his reasons why. Because I co-write with other authors. You do like collaborative writing where you have like four authors on one story, or you do your own story and then the other author does their story, then the other author does their story, and you put it all in one book. You co-write songs. So I would have to know why this white lady was a co-writer. It's not a matter of I understand people being able to. You don't get a co-writer because you're not able to write your book. You get a co-writer for a myriad of reasons. Maybe they have a following you want to tap into, or they have a different story idea. You're allowed to co-write with people, Miss Vita. Sometimes the news media, the print news, they write their own stories. I understand that. You do all favorite authors, like especially with urban fiction. If you want to get your book out there, at times you'll have everybody's like hottest authors, and they'll do a collaboration together. So the reader's getting more than one story, or from her favorite, authors for a nice low price. So he never got to finish the book, and then she went. This is what I'm trying to understand. So then she didn't co-write, she finished it. And he may not have wanted her to. Was this after his demise? It has been researched that she took too many liberties and the timing was off. Because some people will finish a book. If you got a link, you can message me here on YouTube so that I can read it for myself. What was the reasoning that what are they exactly saying? It was about the money being generated by the book. No, no, no. I get that. I get that. But I still need to see what they're saying, the context. I still need to read it. Because sometimes it get lost in translation. And then there's but so many characters for you to. So I get that. She took too many liberties and the timing was off. I want to know what was the time. Was he alive or was he deceased? And oh God, I forgot what it's called. Hold on. You know how they do the first, second, third editions? Like, yeah, I want to see the link. Not because I don't believe you. I need to see the context of how they said it. What were the liberties she took? I want to know if he was still alive, because then it's like, but did they have a deal and she just finished the book? That's what I want to see, the details. I know the white people always take too many liberties. I was just telling my son that if anything happens to me, what he's to do when he's to go into my computer. He's also a writer. So I don't want nobody finishing anything if it's not my family. That's why I wanted to see what it was, because I know that he did also will the proceeds away. First to the Black Panther Party, and then to the second ones they said was the publishing company. So that's all I want to know, the context. But before I end, I do want to show you all this here. I found this interesting. Fair use.
Diplomatic relations in the Caribbean have taken a sharp turn, with the Dominican Republic expelling Cuban officials.
Right. According to reporting from the Associated Press, the Dominican government ordered 9 Cuban diplomats and their families to leave. Cuba actually claims the number is 10. This move is being framed by Havana as an act of submission to United States policy, specifically the energy and financial blockade.
What is driving this sudden shift in the regional alliance?
It appears linked to a security initiative called the Shield of the Americas. This program was launched by the United States to bolster regional security, but Cuba was excluded due to political friction. Now we see several conservative Latin American nations aligning their foreign policy more closely with Washington.
Is there a precedent for such a drastic diplomatic rupture in the Dominican Republic?
Some experts, like former Minister Miguel Mejia, argue this is the most extreme measure since the Trujillo dictatorship. There is a strong demand for President Luis Abinader to provide a clear explanation, as no official reason for the expulsion was initially provided to the public. It marks a significant moment of tension in the region.
The lack of transparency certainly complicates the geopolitical landscape.
Our summary. In late August 1959, following the triumph of the Cuban Revolution, the Dominican Republic, under dictator Rafael Trujillo, expelled the entire Cuban diplomatic delegation from Santo Domingo. This swift expulsion came in direct response to a failed, Cuba-backed armed invasion aimed at overthrowing Trujillo's regime, alongside accusations that Cuban diplomats were engaging in active espionage and subversive activity within Dominican borders. Key historical details. The catalyst. June 1959 invasion. In June 1959, Fidel Castro's newly established revolutionary government permitted and supported a group of armed Dominican exiles, the Movimiento 14 de Junio, June 14th movement, led by Enrique Jimenez Moya, to launch an amphibious and airborne invasion into the Dominican Republic, landing at Constanza, Maimon, and Estero Hondo. Trujillo's retaliation. Trujillo's military swiftly crushed the invasion force, capturing and executing most of the insurgents. In response, Trujillo declared a national emergency, launched an aggressive anti-communist campaign, and targeted the Cuban government directly. Diplomatic espionage accusations. Dominican authorities accused the Cuban embassy staff in Ciudad Trujillo, now Santo Domingo, of acting as an operational cell for local underground anti-Trujillo groups and distributing revolutionary propaganda. The expulsion order, August 1959. As tensions reached a breaking point, the Dominican government officially broke diplomatic relations with Havana, declared the Cuban diplomats personae non gratae, and ordered the immediate shutdown of the embassy and total departure of all Cuban diplomatic staff. AP News and contemporary reporting context. Reporting from the Associated Press, AP, and contemporary international wire services throughout July and August 1959 tracked the dramatic collapse of relations between the two nations. Public Revelations AP dispatches from Ciudad Trujillo detailed how Dominican security forces surrounded the Cuban embassy, claiming to have uncovered caches of weapons, subversion materials, and communications equipment linked directly to revolutionary groups. OAS involvement wire reports highlighted that both countries took their grievances to the Organization of American States, OAS. The Dominican Republic charged Cuba with state-sponsored aggression and violation of non-intervention treaties, while Cuba condemned Trujillo's brutal suppression of dissidents. Escalation across the Caribbean. The expulsion was a major milestone in the early Cold War Caribbean context. It led Trujillo to fund counter-revolutionary groups in Cuba, such as the Anti-Castro Caribbean Legion, and set off a chain of regional proxy conflicts that eventually drew in broader inter-American diplomacy and the United States.
So I don't want to keep y'all longer than I need to keep y'all. I like to thank y'all for coming out. I found that the reason why I played this is because the Dominicans are trying to say that, Black Americans are this, that, and the third. They're blaming us for their issues as the parades in New York, in the Bronx, and all of this. Um, and everybody's so concerned about Black Americans not speaking out against deportation. But when you look at these other nations, they are putting people out. Now, Cuba is supposedly like being put out of a lot of places, but Cuba was helping those islands from what I ascertained when it came to things like medical and stuff like that. So this is a dirty game, y'all. And I guess, America wants the resources. Like this is happening in our real lifetime, if not mistaken. And they're saying that, well, what they're saying is I forget the name of it. It's like the safety for America, making sure America will be safe, which we do want. I got to get the correct name before I go telling y'all anything because we always want to be credible, of course. But it's just really weird that a lot of places are putting out the Cubans. Jamaica did, Dominican Republic now. And that's what the man was saying. This is as bad as when I think the man's name was Trujillo did that back in the days. So I don't know. Y'all know I don't like us bothering people. But if it's for our safety, go ahead. Bother on. We're human. Yeah, we have compassion for people, but sometimes, things run thin. But I think that instead of bothering us, they need to turn their attention back to their homeland. And if the military age men was home, maybe they'd have a fighting chance. And Cuba wouldn't be put out of a lot of places that they were trying to help. Now, the Dominicans could tell me I'm wrong because I'm not Dominican. I'm on the outside looking in. But for right now, that's the word I got when I be scrolling through the hallways. But on that note, I'd like to thank y'all for joining me. And when we come back, which will either be later on tonight or tomorrow morning, okay? Sometimes I just come over here because TikTok, they be doing too much. I know how much I can hear. Your answers ain't doing nothing. I'm tired of that. And we'll finish. Well, we'll go back into the second part of the origins of Black August. I want to say that I love y'all for real. Love, peace, light, and reparations. Oh, to Miss Vicky, thank you for the donation, and Miss Rita as well. Thank you to everybody who has donated, supported the platform. Check my bio for all calls to actions. Make sure you subscribe and spread the word. And when we come back, we'll cut up a little bit on something or whatever is going on. And then we'll get back into Black August. All right, y'all. Be one family.
To modern schemes, unraveling truths and chasing dreams.